You are Locked On Broncos POSTCAST, powered by Mile High Sports, part of Locked On Sports Denver, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, it is your Locked On Broncos POSTCAST here on this lovely Saturday, August the 23rd here in the Mile High City. I am your host of your Denver Broncos POSTCAST, Aniello Piro. You guys can follow me on social media at Media by AP. And thankfully, I shouldn't say thankfully, I'm thankful for any football we get anytime. But thankfully, this is the last preseason postcast that we'll have to do. Now we can turn the page and look forward to the regular season, a highly anticipated regular season for the Denver Broncos. So we'll break down, obviously, today's preseason win against the New Orleans Saints, but we'll also take a look ahead to the regular season, some thoughts on guys who are maybe on the bubble. We'll get your thoughts as well. Feel free to chime in the comment section as we have some fun here on your Locked On Broncos postcast. And as a programming note, don't worry, Cody and Sayre, they're not going anywhere. This is just in addition to what Cody and Sayre do with the traditional Locked On Broncos podcast. This is just your Locked On Broncos postcast. So some more Denver Broncos conversation and coverage from yours truly. Follow me on social at Media by AP. But okay, let's get the nuts and bolts out of the way here first, folks. The Denver Broncos 3-0 in the preseason. They take down the New Orleans Saints this afternoon, 28-19, your final score. I think everybody, for the most part, outside of just, bubble watch, specifically in the second half at the running back position, everybody was interested to see what the offense was going to look like. Of course, they played limited snaps in that first game against the San Francisco 49ers, did not play whatsoever against the Arizona Cardinals, that being Bo Nix, Courtland Sutton, and whatnot, due to the joint practice in the middle of the week. I've been at every single training camp practice alongside with my guy Cody Rourke, and Sean Payton chalked that up to, in regards to not playing the starters in the second preseason game, to, having enough good work done in that joint practice. But today, supposed to be 8 to 10 reps for the starters. They starting offense got a little bit more there as they got out to a slow start. And I put it in the thumbnail, questions about the offense. Should we read into what we've seen from the Denver Broncos offense and, give or take a quarter's worth of football, not even that much from the starters. And I got a couple of different takes, direction that I want to go on that. But I think the big thing is the Broncos offense found their footing midway through their little stint there in the first quarter. I mean, the first couple of drives look pretty ugly there, but Bo Nix gets a nice connection to Courtland Sutton over the middle of the field for a chunk play, and they finish off a drive there with a touchdown to Courtland Sutton. So looking at the numbers from Bo Nix, nothing to be alarmed about. 10 of 14, 110 passing yards, average of 7.9 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 118.2, right? You like that. And it was important. You saw Sean Payton throw the offense out there maybe for one more drive or a handful of more plays than he initially had thought he was going to, because he wanted to see that offense get going. And Sean, I caught his post-game press conference on the television, basically said it was a loose 8 to 10 plays. And you saw, obviously, Bo Nix, Courtland Sutton, Evan Ingram, who had a drop at one point in this game, play a little bit more than those 8 to 10 snaps. But it got the result that Sean Payton was looking for, which was a touchdown drive at some point there early in the second quarter, puts the Broncos up. They don't trail after that moment, and they end up winning the game 28-19. They conceded. The Broncos did the 2 field goals there in the first half. I understand that the Broncos also were able to generate a field goal of their own in the first quarter. But really what you were looking for, at least what I was looking for from the offense, is just some continuity. And you got that as the drive progressed, as their stints and as their snaps went along. The first couple of plays, you had those third down opportunities unable to convert at one point. It kind of looked a little bit like that San Francisco game here, but you like the chemistry with Bo Nix. You like the reception from Courtland Sutton, 2 big receptions from Court today, including the touchdown pass. And outside of that, the Broncos offense did what they were supposed to do. Maybe not as quickly as you had hoped they would, but they did end up going on a scoring drive, scoring a touchdown, and away we go. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comment section here. Are you a little concerned about the Denver Broncos offense? Because we saw them against San Francisco, and we saw him there today against New Orleans. The ending, you remember the last thing that you see, right? So the last thing you saw was Bo Nix and company walking off the field, that being the starters, with a touchdown reception to Courtland Sutton. But I almost fired off a tweet at Media by AP in that final drive saying, I'm not one to overreact to preseason. I'm not. But this was now the second game after not seeing him in the preseason game against Arizona where you just kind of expected things to look right, and they didn't look right out of the gate. So I'm not trying to sound an alarm or, ring a bell or this or that and say the sky is falling with the Denver Broncos offense. I'm not there. I've got them at 10 wins, which is controversial to some people. I got them at double-digit wins. They could win 11, I think, but I got them at 10 wins myself. I came away from those first couple of drives with the Broncos offense saying, maybe they're not as crisp as they look at practice. I mean, that much is obvious to me. They look a lot better at practice than they have in these couple of stints offensively in the preseason. But again, I'm not going to read into that a whole lot. Evan Ingram had a bad drop. Courtland Sutton kind of beat himself up, had that fade route in the end zone, which they kind of mistimed. I think that was more on Courtland than it was on Bo. We got a comment here from Vicky. I'm very concerned about the offense. Another comment here from Joey. Yes, it's just about the same offense as last season, and they were average. I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts. What is giving you anxiety about this Denver Broncos offense? Because I'm a believer, not a believer. I mean, I am a believer, but not in this sense. I just think they need reps. That's where I'm at. And look, I've seen them do the same routes and the same 11 on 11 and 7 on 7, the same, song and dance when it comes to practice for 3 weeks now. So, that's a lot different trying to take what you're working on in practice and applying that to the game. And so, like I said, I'm not, sound the alarm with this Denver Broncos offense, but I am coming back and saying, okay, maybe they're not quite as good as I thought they were going to be out of the gate. That doesn't mean that they can't be really good towards the end of the season like we saw them come on last year. But, what's the old saying? The cream rises to the top. Maybe that is going to be the case with this Broncos offense, but I guess I'm now mentally preparing myself. And I know they got the Tennessee Titans week 1, who, was the worst team in the NFL last year, got the number 1 overall pick. I was in my head looking at that game as that's a Denver Broncos blowout. I was thinking a 35-10 type of game just because I don't think the Titans are very, very good starting a rookie quarterback. But now I think the Broncos are still going to win the game, but I'm not, maybe I'm second guessing myself about a big blowout victory. I think it would be a disaster if the Broncos lost the first game to the Tennessee Titans. But I guess I'm checking myself at the door when it comes to my overall expectations for the offense. Offensive line in particular, I think Bo's going to be okay. I feel okay about the wide receivers. We'll talk about the Devon Vele trade here in just a moment, but I think Bo will be okay. Again, let's knock those cobwebs off. And, I feel good about Courtland Sutton. I feel good about Evan Ingram despite the drop today. I think he'll figure it out. He's a pro. But the offensive line and the running game, those are 2 areas of emphasis for the Denver Broncos here. And look, I think J.K. Dobbins is going to really increase the rushing attack for the Denver Broncos as a whole. But R.J. Harvey, 4 rushing yards on his 3 carries today. Not exactly anything to write home about if you're R.J. Harvey. The offensive line at points today, which at one point, not even at one point, it just frankly was a strength for the Denver Broncos last year, looked a little bit shaky there as well. And, I think back to the answer that Quinn Miners had. I want to say this was at Thursday's practice where he was asked about, do you like playing in the preseason? Do you not want to play in the preseason? He said for him personally, he likes to play in the preseason because it goes to knock those cobwebs off and it helps to get him ready for the season. Well, the Broncos offensive line, not exactly ready for the season, in my opinion. They definitely looked a little rusty out there today. Again, we'll see what happens between now and week 1, if they can get some stuff cleaned up, if there's a mental switch that flips because it's a regular season game versus a preseason game. But the offensive line today, little shaky. Running back room today, little shaky, at least with the ones. No J.K. Dobbins out there for the Denver Broncos, but we did, as I mentioned, have R.J. Harvey, and look, he's making the team, obviously, a second-round pick. He's not going anywhere, but 3 carries for 4 yards. Not exactly lighting the world on fire there. Audric Estime, though, a guy who's on the bubble for the Denver Broncos in that running back room. If I had to guess right now, I don't think Audric Estime is making the team. Maybe he comes back on the practice squad. Maybe they try to flip him for a 5th or 6th round pick if they could get that. But I don't think Audric Estime is making the team. Personally, I like Audric Estime. I think he's got a lot of talent. But he had himself a nice little day today. And you remember the last thing that you do, right? 8 carries for 45 yards, punches in a touchdown there. That was much needed. And we've heard some reports, from in and around the building that Estime maybe a little bit earlier on in training camp was kind of frustrated with the overall dynamic, maybe pouting a little bit, just annoyed, frustrated is the word. But today, whatever that may have been, if that was a thing, he cast that to the side and showed out with his 8 carries for 45 yards, an average of 5.6 yards per carry, long rush of 9 and a touchdown. So nice to see Audric Estime find his way in the end zone there as well. And here's one other thing I'll read into before we kind of transition to the defense and some other big picture thoughts after the commercial break. Jaleel McLaughlin he didn't play today. I don't think he was there either. I know his wife is going through labor. They're expecting a child. But I think the fact that Jaleel McLaughlin wasn't there, let's take the life stuff aside. Jaleel McLaughlin's making this team. So the way that I look at it is J.K. Dobbins a lock in the running back room. R.J. Harvey's a lock in the running back room. I feel pretty confident in saying that Jaleel McLaughlin is also going to make this team. Sean Payton has gushed over Jaleel. put on some weight this offseason. Despite the results weren't always there for Jaleel last season, but they like the upside with him. So I think Jaleel McLaughlin's making this team. Now, the question is, do they carry 4 running backs? And then if they do carry 4, who's going to be the 4th? Is it Audric Estime? I don't think so. Could it be Tyler Pede? Could it be Blake Watson? And let me confirm this real quick. I'm forgetting which one. One of them went down today. Yeah, Blake Watson went down with the knee injury. So we'll see if that affects anything. Only 4 carries for 13 yards, but not exactly like Tyler Badie, had himself a day either with 4 carries for 14. I mean, Sam Ehlinger, the third string quarterback, not even the backup quarterback, was the Broncos' second leading rusher today, 6 carries for 25 yards. That's a little deja vu-esque. I mean, how many times last year would you watch the Denver Broncos and going into halftime or even finishing games was Bo Nix either the first or second leading rusher on the team? So again, let's pump the brakes. It's preseason. We haven't seen J.K. Dobbins in this game, but just food for thought here is the running back room might not be as strong as some people thought heading into training camp. Just some food for thought there as well. But all in all, man, you can't complain. 28-19 victory today for the Denver Broncos. The offense figured it out after a bit of a rough start. Courtland Sutton with a touchdown reception. He had 4 receptions for 83 yards. So if you play preseason fantasy, you love to have Courtland Sutton on your roster today. Lucas Kroll had himself a nice day as well. 3 receptions for 49 yards, and away we go. But let's turn that page. The Broncos ending the preseason 3-0, 28-19 victory over the New Orleans Saints. All right, let's hit a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue along with the conversation. Drop some comments, folks. Let me know your thoughts on the preseason as a whole, today's game, the running back room, the offensive line, any concerns you have with this Denver Broncos team. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. We'll come back and go back and forth right here on your Locked On Broncos postcast. Back in just a moment, folks. All right, you guys, let me tell you about our friends over at Yahoo Fantasy because this episode is presented by our friends over at Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. Me and my buddies are playing fantasy football over at Yahoo, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Guys, to celebrate over 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout the month of August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's only one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play the classic mode as well, or you can give any of these new modes a try. If you're more into the classics, as I mentioned, they've got those head-to-head and private leagues for you to join too. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedon. And let me also tell you about our friends over at Betterhelp, guys, because these days it feels like there's advice for everything. Cold plunges, gratitude journals, screen detoxes. But what do you actually know what works for you? With so much information online about mental health and wellness, it can be overwhelming to figure out what's true and what will actually help. That's where talking to a licensed therapist through BetterHelp can make all the difference. You get real personalized guidance instead of just guessing based on something you saw on social media. Guys, I found that therapy isn't just for navigating major challenges. It's also about building positive coping skills and learning how to set boundaries. Having a trusted professional to talk things through with can help cut through the noise and keep you focused on what matters most. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, serving more than 5 million people. It's easy to fit into your schedule. Just click connect, and you can even switch therapists anytime if you need to. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Be sure to check out our friends over at BetterHelp and let them know that Locked On Broncos sent you. All right, welcome on back into your Locked On Broncos postcast. Programming note once again, Cody and Sayre, they're not going anywhere. This is just some additional content here on the Locked On Broncos YouTube channel, as well as the Locked On Broncos audio feed. So appreciate y'all rocking with me throughout the course of the preseason. I'll be here throughout the course of the regular season as well. I also do the Locked On Nuggets and Locked On Buffs postcast shows. So if you want some Colorado Buffaloes conversation, if you want some Denver Nuggets conversation when basketball season rolls around, that's where you can find me. But, okay, let's get back into it. A big win today for the Denver Broncos. They go 3-0 in the preseason, 28-19. Offense starts slow, picks it up as the game goes along. Running back room, some question marks. Offensive line, some question marks. The one thing where there's no question marks, folks. Well, one, I think the New Orleans Saints might be the worst team in the NFL this year. I mean, yeesh. Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler leaving a lot to be desired. But I have no questions about the defense, man. I mean, you saw Patrick Surtain making a play on Brandon Cooks, PI on Brandon Cooks, pushing off as well. Surtain said, I don't care. I'm knocking this ball away. The defense is going to be fine. Jonathan Cooper doing his thing. There's never really been a question outside of health, and that's for every team in the NFL. But specifically with the Broncos defense, like, they're going to be straight, folks. I mean, the Saints today, I wish I could pull up the stats with the starters in there, because they have 236 total yards of offense, which isn't exactly great, but how many yards do they exactly generate against the Broncos first team offense? Not many. I mean, they had them in prison today, despite the 2 field goal attempts there early. So no questions myself about the Broncos defense outside of health. They should be one of, if not the best unit in the NFL. That is known. But I asked you guys before I hit the break, about what concerns do you have? What questions do you have? A couple of good comments here from this one from Mason. Not worried about the offense. Sean Payton is elite at making adjustments, and this defense will keep them in games if it takes a few weeks for the offense. If they start slow, go Broncos. I agree with that. Kenneth adds, Denver will be fine. I think Sean wants people to question our offense, chip on the shoulder technique. Maybe that's the case, but I tend to agree with you guys. I think the offense is going to be just fine. I think Bo Nix is going to be just fine. I do have some questions about the running game, but point being, like, I'm not putting too much stock. I'm putting a little bit of stock, just a little bit, into what I saw from the ones in San Francisco and then, of course, this afternoon. But when it's overall, like, I'm not taking what I saw from the preseason as a means to say the Broncos aren't going to make the playoffs. Like, I'm not there yet. Like, I think the Broncos are good enough. They have enough talent on offense. They'll be good to go. Speaking of talent on offense, the Broncos made a trade earlier this week, and the person in which they traded away happens to play for the team in which the Broncos played against today. That, of course, being wide receiver Devon Vele. And just a couple of thoughts on that. I did not see this trade coming, but I also didn't see the Broncos getting a 4th and a 7th for Devon Vele. Every indication that I got, from people in and around the building is that Sean Payton and Bo Nix and company, like, they like Devon Vele a lot. Great player. He is a little bit older, 27 years old. But simply put, I had a buddy, because I was telling him that. I'm like, I think the Broncos really like Devon Vele. He texted me that. He's like, I thought the Broncos love Vele, ? And I said, well, to use a line from The Godfather, Sean Payton and George Payton were made an offer they simply couldn't refuse. I mean, you got to think of it this way. And I off the top of my head, I'm trying to remember this from what I saw on social media. I believe the Broncos got a better return for Devon Vele than the Pittsburgh Steelers got for George Pickens, to kind of put that in perspective. You saw, the 49ers made a couple of trades as well. The point being, the Broncos got tremendous value in the Devon Vele trade. And I think Pat Bryant, who you saw today make some plays, they feel very confident in him as a whole. Pat Bryant today, 2 receptions for 19 yards along of 14. You like to see that. They like Courtland Sutton, obviously. They paid him in the offseason. Marvin Mims Jr. has made some strides. No one's made more strides this offseason than Troy Franklin. So clearly, and Sean talked about how they might carry those 5 or 6 wide receivers, but they might not all dress. So there was going to be an odd man out, even if they made the roster in regards to dressing on Sundays. So obviously, when the 4th round pick, and Sean made a note that, there was 2 teams that were seriously in on Vele and a 3rd team that was interested. The fact that there was 3 teams calling on Devon Vele, one, tells you something in his skill set. But the fact that the Broncos were willing and able to move off of him for a 4th round pick, which is great compensation in my opinion, also shows you they feel pretty confident about the depth they have. So that's that as well. My thoughts on the Devon Vele trade. But all in all, man, to kind of put a bow on it, it's here, baby. Denver Broncos football is here. The Colorado Buffaloes play a football game a week from yesterday. So college football is starting up, NFL football is starting up. Obviously, we'll get roster cuts coming up here starting on Tuesday. We'll see what happens there. Running back room, I don't think there'll be any major cuts at wide receiver. Like, Courtland Sutton's good, Marvin Mims is good, Troy Franklin's good, Trent Sherfield's good. And we'll see where they go. Pat Bryant's good, so there's your 5 as well. For the Broncos wide receivers. So I'm going to be interested to see what they do at cornerback with the cuts. I'm interested to see what they do at running back with the cuts, and maybe tight end as well. Guys like Caleb Lohner. They like Nate Atkins, who's been banged up with an injury. We'll see what happens there. But Cody and Sayre will have you covered with additional roster conversation. They'll have their thoughts on this game too. So all in all, folks, I don't think the preseason, you go 3-0. But again, those struggles that we saw from the first team offense, I put this much stock into it. Like a scale of 1 to 10, I put a 1. Right? I'm reading into it. I got my mental notes. We'll see how they look against Tennessee. I expect they'll be a lot better. But now we can officially turn the page as Denver Broncos regular season football is upon us. All right, that is going to do it for me, folks. Really, really appreciate y'all rocking with me. You can follow me on social media at Media by AP. Do me a favor, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button on your way out the door, and you'll be able to join me after each and every Denver Broncos game throughout the course of this season. 3-0 in the preseason, on to the regular season. Talk to you guys after week 1, folks. Have a good one.